Futurama is considered by many to be light years ahead of other adult cartoons in terms of comedy and quality writing, which makes sense when you consider that the show was set in the 31st century. Well, actually a light year is a unit of distance, but it doesn't matter. Futurama is one of the best cartoons of all time. Although the show is largely recognized for its humor and ability to make us keel over with laughter, we've got to admit that we've seen some pretty sad moments sprinkled throughout the entire series.
I moved the stars themselves to write her a love note in the sky.
Several of which really got our tear ducts working. We're here to help you relive some of these tragic moments. But don't worry, if you have to cry, we'll cry with you. I'm Brad with Wicked Binge, and these are the 10 saddest Futurama moments that made us cry.
A poor, lazy, sexy fraud.
Number 10. The Devil's Hands Are Idle Playthings. An episode which, interestingly enough, was supposed to have been the series finale, appearing at the end of Season 4. Despite the fact that the show was subsequently renewed several years later, it's obvious that considering that this episode was supposed to have been the final curtain, there would be quite a few melancholic elements featured. And boy, were there. After a series of weirdly linked events following Fry's decision to make a pact with a robot devil in order to improve his holophoner playing skills,
Stop being such a baby and chop my hands off.
Leela ends up being deaf, something which sets the final scene to be a real tearjerker.
What? Are you talking? Oh God, I'm deaf!
You'll recall that as the hall empties out, only Leela remains to listen to the rest of Fry's performance. Not only does he improvise his piece because she's there, he makes a drawing of him and Leela holding hands, walking away into the distance.
Please don't stop playing, Fry. I want to hear how it ends.
Had this been the series finale, this would have been a rather quiet yet sad closing episode. It would mean that we would have never truly seen Fry's and Leela's relationship blossom, something which is depressing in and of itself. Number 9. Meanwhile. Up next, we have Meanwhile, an episode which, like The Devil's Hands Are Idle Playthings, was one of the series' many alleged finales. It would seem that the latter set the trend for what viewers could have expected finales to be, as this episode was yet another emotional roller coaster. After a series of mishaps, including an attempted suicide by Fry,
This is the end. Goodbye, my love.
this show was pretty dark when it comes to suicide references. He and Leela finally get married. However, the world around them is frozen, all thanks to Fry destroying Professor Farnsworth's time machine. The two spend the next couple of decades together in this now frozen universe, frequently taking long walks together while exploring the world as they knew it. However, their decades-long romantic journey comes to an end when, after Professor Farnsworth offers them the possibility of returning to the point in time immediately before they got stuck in the time zone, they decide to go back.
I've modded the device to release a single huge anti-chronoton blast. It should rip us out of stasis back to the instant before I conceived of the time button.
This episode is sad for many reasons. Apart from the fact that it's the final episode of the entire series, it also provides a rather touching, romantic closing chapter to Fry and Leela's relationship.
What do you say? Want to go around again?
I do.
Number 8. A Flight to Remember. Coming in at number 8 is A Flight to Remember, the 10th episode of the first season. This episode is a parody of Titanic, the gut-wrenching film about a selfish lady who wouldn't let Leonardo DiCaprio share her floating door. There was enough room for him! Therefore, you can imagine that this episode will have you reaching for that box of tissue.
Now, without further ado, I christen this ship Titanic.
The focus of this episode's drama centers around Bender, who falls in love with a robot known as Countess. However, things go sour when the Titanic spaceship ends up going into a black hole, forcing him and Countess to take the escape pod. However, because the escape pod is too heavy from the weight of both Bender and Countess, in an effort to save him, Countess decides to go into the black hole, sacrificing her own life for someone that she loved.
I'm slipping, Bender. The pull is too strong.
This episode is really sad. Bender is heartbroken that he will never be reunited with the robot he fell in love with, so much so that at the end of the episode, he lets out a blood-curdling scream of anguish, which would make anyone feel his pain.
What do you think it's worth?
It's fake, man.
Ah!
Leela's Homeworld. Leela's Homeworld is one of those episodes that really hits a soft spot in viewers' hearts, both for what the episode symbolizes for Leela, as well as the shocking revelations which are made throughout.
What a beautiful, gigantic eye you have.
In this episode, we're taken on a roller coaster ride in which Leela and by extension us, the viewers, learn about her past, as well as the sacrifice made by her parents for her to live a fairly normal life. She learns that she's not, in fact, a Cyclops-like alien. In reality, she's a sewer mutant.
She's cursed to live the horrible, degrading life of a mutant, like all of us, especially him.
It's true.
Maybe we can do better for her.
Her parents are mutants who preferred to abandon Leela by giving her away to an orphanarium. Their hope was that as she grew up, she would have been spared from the harsh and cruel stigmas associated with being a sewer mutant, as they were frowned upon in the universe.
I'm not an alien? I'm a mutant?
Apart from the sacrifice her parents made for the betterment of their daughter, the episode's final scene shows a montage of her parents watching over her behind the scenes as she grew up. Powerful stuff. Number 6. The Late Philip J. Fry. Considered by some to be one of the best episodes in the entire series, The Late Philip J. Fry was yet another emotionally tugging showcase of Fry and Leela's romance.
Ooh, nice cake. Sorry I'm late.
Where have you... it's fine.
You're not mad?
This episode stands out among the rest, as viewers get to see the effects of a horrible separation of a budding couple. Fry is doomed to spending the rest of eternity traveling incessantly through time with the Professor and Bender, while poor Leela can't take the emotional turmoil of being without him.
The year 10,000? But I promised Leela I'd be on time for dinner.
Despite the occasional comedic relief scenes, for the most part, this episode is largely characterized by both Leela's and Fry's emotional suffering.
I'm so angry. I'm so sad. But I'm still pretty angry, but also sad.
Actually, at the end of the episode, when we finally see that they were able to have their date, I think it's fair to say that we all breathed a sigh of relief, as throughout the episode, it was nothing but an emotional tug-of-war. Number 5. The Sting. While some of the episodes featured on this list are characterized by short, sad scenes, in The Sting, from the beginning right to the end, viewers are treated with non-stop waves of sadness. As viewers vividly witness Leela's growing delirium as she tries to cope with the fact that Fry essentially got stung in the stomach from a bee for her, we can't help but be moved to tears. With each cry of, "I just need you to wake up," we can feel the pain, anguish, and guilt. What's more, because of Leela's emotionally devastated reaction to Fry being in a coma, we also feel emotionally invested, understanding her pain and relating to her sorrow. Even at the end of the episode, when it's revealed that what we were seeing was really Leela's distorted imagination while she was in a coma, for some reason, it makes the scene sadder, especially when you see Fry weeping over her hospital bed.
Just wake up, please. Just wake up, Leela.
Number 4. Godfellas. Yet another heart-wrenching episode. Godfellas is one which will leave the hairs on the back of your neck standing up. After being tossed into space from the Planet Express, a micro-civilization decides to make a home right on Bender's body. In doing so, they regard him to be their god and look to him as their savior and source of help.
Fellow shrimpkins, behold him that hath taken us unto his breast. All bow before the great Metal Lord.
Sadly, things go horribly wrong when the race decides to kill themselves off during a high-stakes war, leaving Bender feeling dejected and depressed.
Hello? Is anyone still alive?
The real bone-chilling scene is at the end, where Bender meets up with a godlike entity who tells him, when you do things right, people won't be sure you've done anything at all.
When you do things right, people won't be sure you've done anything at all.
All in all, the episode is so philosophical and poignant that you can't help but get an eerie, dark, and melancholic feeling after watching it.
Right and wrong are just words. What matters is what you do.
Number 3. Time Keeps On Slipping. Coming in at number 3 is Time Keeps On Slipping, which might feature one of the most devastating endings ever seen. The episode explores Fry's love for Leela and hints at the possibility that the two may actually end up in a relationship.
You're smart, you're beautiful, and best of all, you'll go out with me.
In an effort to express his love for her, he manages to reconfigure the stars in the galaxy to say, "I love you, Leela." It was his hope that Leela would have seen his touching message and declaration of undying and unwavering devotion to her. Sadly, after a bomb detonates, the message gets erased, meaning that Leela never sees it.
Detonation in 3, 2, 1.
At the end of this episode, we really feel Fry's pain as he tries his best to win Leela's hand in marriage, only to be met with failure. Number 2. The Luck of the Fry Fish. The plot of this episode centers around Fry's sour relationship with his brother, Yancey, and why Fry has such a disdain for him.
I'm dying of old age!
We learn that Fry believes that his brother stole his identity over a 7-leaf clover, and as a result, feels betrayed.
He stole my clover, he stole my name, and he stole my life!
The real twist comes at the end, where he finds out that his brother didn't, in fact, steal his identity. Actually, in memory of him, Yancey had named his son after Fry and also gave him Fry's clover so that he could remember his uncle.
Daddy has a present for you today. Do you know what it is? It's a lucky clover that can help you be successful whatever you do, even breakdancing, and it once belonged to someone very special.
This episode is so sad on so many levels. As touching as the mending of familial bonds may be, the sentiment is enhanced by the song Don't You Forget About Me, which plays as the credits roll. Number 1. Jurassic Park. Topping our list as the saddest episode of Futurama is none other than Jurassic Park, an episode which is widely regarded to be not only the saddest in the series, but one of the most gut-wrenching in cartoon history. After all, when it comes to man's best friend, all bets are off.
I'm walking on sunshine! Whoa, whoa, whoa!
Upon stumbling upon the remains of his fossilized dog, Seymour, in a museum, Fry initially tries to have him cloned.
We can clone it!
However, when he learns that Seymour had lived a further 13 years after he left, he assumed that Seymour was adopted into a family and lived a happy dog life.
Seymour lived a full life after I was gone.
If only he knew the harsh reality of Seymour's life after he left, he would be devastated. The final scene shows Seymour waiting every day for Fry outside of Panucci's Pizza, a place where he continued to wait for 13 years until his death.
I won't be gone long, Seymour. Just wait here till I come back.
As sad as the ending is, the song heard during this scene, I Will Wait For You, sung by Connie Francis, only adds to its sadness. To watch an animal suffer such a fate is heartbreaking to say the least, and something which nobody should ever have to bear witness to. Really, if you watch this episode, you probably immediately went to give your dog a hug, because the emotions from watching this episode hit everyone like a freight train. But what do you think? What's the saddest episode of Futurama? Do you agree with our list? Let us know in the comments section below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. But most importantly, stay wicked.